weekend, or all week. He's just been pumped about his experience at the racetrack, and it's kind of cool to see a little kid
for life.
Yeah, absolutely. We've ruined him. We've ruined him. His parents are going to hate us.
No, they'll thank you later on when he's spending money on race cars and not drugs. Really.
Well, you're right.
Absolutely.
They'll thank us later, I think. But it was pretty cool to see that little kid. His parents were they were kind of besides themselves too. They had a good time. I think they enjoyed seeing their son have such a good night at the racetrack, and it was kind of cool. Joel and I got to have a little fun with that and then play around with it, and it was kind of neat to see a little kid have that experience. I mean, that was me when I was at the track. I mean, I can remember being, I want to say 3 or 4 years old. I think I was probably...
It was fish on.
Oh, it was done. Yeah. My dad ruined me. My dad and Uncle Mike, they ruined me. I got a picture sitting in Johnny Schuler's old Camaro, the old orange Camaro, the 41, the gold 41 on the side, duct tape around the seal of the windshield. Got the the wing on top, and I'm sitting in the car with a helmet on, open face helmet, and I remember that. I might have been 4, but I remember that. And I don't know if this will look out. I remember that experience at the racetrack, but hopefully we, give him something to look back on, and it's kind of a neat deal.
He'll have the pictures and the trophy and everything.
Yeah, it was fun to watch.
Refresh his memory.
It was fun to watch. Chris Frisbee says crack is cheaper.
Yeah. Where are you shopping at, Chris? I want some.
Did you?
What? They're coming from our ex-cop.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
Hey, undercover work.
Everybody knows. Undercover brother. Oh, Lord. We have ruined the show tonight. But we want to talk about Grove. We're talking about Sunset. They've got a big race coming up.
Yes, they do.
They've got...
what do they have in this weekend?
Is the Driver Appreciation Night.
No,
yes.
Didn't they have? I think they had that last week.
Did they?
I believe so.
They've got something. I was... Chris, it was too late. We already saw. You can't just delete it when it's been there. He deleted that comment, but a little too late, Chris. It's out there, buddy.
And you threw him right under the bus, too.
But it was funny.
It was.
It was all in good fun.
Cracked me up.
Good pun.
I went to the wrong MyLaps.
You went to the wrong MyLaps. We're trying to bring Sunset up. And
on MyLaps, yeah. Speed Hive, MyLaps.
Well, I don't get it. Why the name change?
I can't know.
Let's call it MyLaps. That's what it is. Joel's looking at his screen over there. I don't know if that's a race car on his screen. About? Sunset.
Driver's Appreciation was on the 12th, unfortunately.
Okay.
We missed that one.
Boom. Nailed that, didn't I?
I was gone.
12th was this last Saturday,
weekend?
Ding Dong.
Was I gone? I don't know where.
Last weekend, you were just talking about the kid that was there and everything.
No. They do have a big event.
They might have a big event, but Driver's Appreciation was last weekend.
They do have a big event. This is the Banks Barbecue and Tractor Pull weekend.
Oh, that's what it was coming up. Yes, that's a big thing for the Banks community. They do. It's a huge. There's no racing, but they do the big barbecue and the tractor pulls. That whole community gets behind that thing up there.
Yes.
I mean, if you're a tractor pull fan, they get up there and do it. Look at Joel. He's like, oh yeah, I love the John Deere's dragging him. Look at him. He just told me I'm number 1.
No, I told you number 11.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
Well, Walters Memorial.
That is coming up on the 26th.
Right. Which is a great night of racing at Sunset. That's probably of all the races of all the races that track holds. That's definitely my favorite race they had, and I got to call that a couple years ago. And was it's one of those deals where even as an announcer, you guys know, I'm a candy ass when it comes to those memorial races and the laps, the memorial laps. Recognizing those guys that help build what we have here in the Northwest, when we do the Claremont Memorial, when we do the memorial laps, they hit home. Those are guys that number one, they're our friends.
Yeah.
They're part of our family.
They are, and I remember being a kid.
It's not just our family; it's everybody that's listening right now. It's our racing family.
And I remember being a kid. And Doug Walters was kind of the early Don Irely. When you showed up at the racetrack, you knew whose car that 67 was because it was the most beautiful machine at the track. He always had the prettiest car.
Well, I don't know about that. It was nice, but
his stuff
I
was...
knew Doug back in Portland Speedway days.
Well, but you remember, he always had really, really nice equipment.
Well, I'm a little partial because I thought ours was probably the nicest.
Well, and maybe. But... But
he always
knew.
had nice equipment. Yeah.
Always. I mean, his stuff always looked like it had never been on the track.
Big red toter home and
and
the stacker trailer,
and the 67 on the door, and
yep.
you know, between him and Don Irely, I mean, those two guys, they had more show cars than race cars.
Yeah.
I mean, but they always had good, fast equipment. So when you do those memorial laps, and you talk about guys like Doug Walters and Claire Arnold and Don Irely and Don Wilson,
it's never easy.
It's not. And when you got to get up there in the announcer's booth, I mean, you guys just a couple weeks ago, we had the Rick Barnes. It's hard to talk about those guys and keep your composure. And a few years ago, when I called the Doug Walters race down there at Sunset, it was the same thing. And here's a guy that, as a kid, it was like, wow, it's Doug Walters. He's got great stuff. He's fast. And, and it was just kind of one of those guys that when you were a kid, I mean, you were there. Remember one of those guys you kind of looked up to? And
I have lots of them.
I do too, and a lot of those guys are gone. Wilson and Bugby and Mark Howard are the first three that come to my mind. And then, Claire. When you got to talk about those guys and look back and reflect on the memories you have of those guys and, what those guys meant to me as a kid growing up, Doug Walters, and that group, they took their time with these kids, me.
Which was you at the time.
Right, and that means something. When these guys you look up to are talking to you and you're sitting in their car, or you got to go out and help them change tires after the race to get the car on the trailer. I mean, that was big time stuff for a kid. Stuff. I mean, and it's. I'm glad I'm not having to call the Doug Walters deal. I mean, that's Steve Swaja up there at Sunset's going to do that, and I it's an honor to call those races, but I hate it at the same time because I'm that guy that gets on the mic and I'm.
Well, it's like at the Rick Barnes Memorial Race, we handed you a personalized letter from Evelyn Arnold.
Right.
That just made it all that much tougher.
And I mean,
from Evelyn.
Yeah.
And you had to say it to the entire crowd. I was the lucky guy in the back that got to give that speech.
I almost had to take
meeting.
over.
Mm-hmm. That one hit me.
I know it did. Rick was very tight with your crew, and you guys had that friendship. That
I'm working the Moxie lines.
Turn your dinger off, White Stick.
Big imagination.
Oh, it's done. It is done. We've lost every listener.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Frisbee, we know he won't turn us off.
Yeah, Chris is over there laughing. I'll guarantee you that. But, that Walters race, I'd love to go to that race again, honestly. I don't think anybody has ever won that race other than Walter's son, Greg. I know when I called it, it was the 7th straight year he'd won it. That was 2 years ago. I don't know who won it last year. But I'm pretty sure he's the only driver that's won that show when it comes to...
White Stick can look it up.
He probably can. I think that, and I might be wrong saying that. I don't know. He might have won it last year, but
idea.
He is. That's the one race where you want to see Greg Walters. You've seen him go all out. We've seen that kid drive the wheels off everything he's got into. That's the one night. When you're racing in honor of your dad.
Yep.
You're going to give it everything you've got, and
kind of like Little League.
Right. Exactly. And I know that when I interviewed Greg Walters a couple years ago at the Walters Memorial, it didn't take long for the waterworks. It was trying to get to the interview, and I'm not talking about just him. In Victory Lane, now we're trying to do this interview, and I'm choking up, and I've got water welled up in my eyes, water's welling up in his eyes. Jimmy Schramm is standing there. Jimmy's, he'd let it go. Jimmy broke down and started crying, and it was on. Everybody else was, first of all, it was a fantastic race. It was a phenomenal race, and when you do that and to honor one of your racing family members, it was awesome. But for Greg to win that a 7th straight time, when it looked like about midway through that it wasn't going to be Greg's night, and it just didn't look like it, Greg says, I'm here, boys. Yeah, I got some ideas, and he walked out there as the winner of that race again. But it was, it's one of those deals. But I think that's one of my favorite night of racing at Sunset rolls around is that Doug Walters deal.
Yeah.
It'd be fun to call that one. What do you got over there, widescreen?
I'm working on it here. Stand by.
So, Warren, this deal that you've got with the NASCAR deal. Now you're off this. You'll be at Willamette with us this weekend.
I'll be at Willamette this weekend. Yeah.
And then what's your schedule look like? So
the following weekend, the K&N West Pro Series goes to Roseburg,
right?
Which I understand that little tiny quarter-mile track has been lengthened.
You are going to like that facility.
I guess I haven't been there since I was down there with Herschel McGriff, and it was just basically a donut track. You were turning the whole time.
Yeah, well, not anymore.
That's going to be interesting.
I'll tell you what, that is a nice facility.
Yeah,
it really is.
Well, it was nice back then, but it was small.
Wait till you see it now.
I can't wait.
That is a neat place, and if you're an
asphalt,
asphalt,
Vanderwaal's going to do real well. The kid's a good shoe.
We're gonna keep our eyes on him. I mean, if Jason's saying what he's saying about him, and he knows. I mean, he's been there the big time. He's been at the shows.
Yeah.
If he's got that much confident faith in this kid, we're gonna keep our eyes on him. And
his dad Rudy is great support, man. He's just good people. The whole family.
Well, and especially if if you get in on that team and we get you touring with those guys, we'll pay attention to them and see what you guys do. And I'm excited for you, man.
Yep.
So we do have another winner besides Greg. Someone finally broke the streak last year, and it was the 111 of Joey Tanner.
Joey. That.
Well, and think about that for a second.
Pretty tight knit.
Absolutely, that's a very close knit relationship there, and I'm sure that that was a big win for Joey on his resume. Joey, he
did it in a very dominating fashion. Next car back was Greg.
Second.
3.6 seconds out.
Wow.
At that track.
That's some distance.
They were turning 14.5-second laps up there.
It's quarter lap.
And there were only 3 cars on the lead lap.
Wow. 3 cars in the lead lap.
Joey, the 97 of Greg Walters, and the 21
Steve Moore, who was very, very good friends with Doug Walters. That does not surprise me to see those 3 perform at that level, that race. I mean, it just doesn't. But very cool. So we're going to have the high...
the Grove?
Not yet.
Okay.
We've got the high octane diecast hot pit coming up in about 10 minutes. We're going to fire up the old hot pit, and it'll be interesting. I'm curious to hear this one. You want to tune in right now if they don't have your.
Call your friends.
Yeah, that's right. Call your friends. Send the word out on Facebook. Hot pit's coming up. Might be a little controversial on one of our segments. I'll say that. Well, it's going to be interesting. I'm going to see how you handle this.
I'm curious to see how it's going to go down.
Well, we'll find out shortly in about 10 minutes. But and we do have the hot pit, one of our topics, the one that Warren's going to talk about. It fits and it needs to be discussed, and we've talked about it. But it's one of those deals that just you got to keep in the forefront.
Well, and what we saw this weekend at Willamette Speedway with one of our on-track incidents, what Warren's going to talk about in his hot pit segment, absolutely we need to bring that to the forefront, and this needs to be addressed immediately.
It does, because we're still seeing...
I'm not even trying to get worked up, and I'm already getting worked up.
I know. You're going to make him mad, and we're going to have more than the hot pit. Yeah. We're going to have a full-on boxing match. I love it.
Tired of looking the ugly guy in it?
So, you know what I think we should do, honestly, guys?
Yeah.
I think we're going to take a quick break.
We are.
And come back with the hot pit. So, let me take a look at things here. I think it's just about a perfect time to go into our second break of the night, come back with the hot pit. We are live once again here at the Jetstream Aqua Massage Studio going into the final hour. Anybody want to show up? We can fire up another mic, put you on the air. We'll talk racing. And, it's an open door policy here. Always a lot of fun. It's a little crowded right now with the way things are set up, but we're going to make the best of it here until we can get the new studio put together, which is not far out, is it, Widescreen?
Hey, you just got to tell me where and when.
See? That's what I'm talking about right there.
To park the combine.
That's a lot of moxie. So we're going to be right back here in about 5 minutes. We're going to come back to the Northwest Dirt News from Jetstream Aqua Massage Studio. Stick around.
Archer Floor Coverings has been a family-owned and operated business since 2000. Archer Floor Coverings provides free estimates and specializes in multiple types of floors, such as carpet, vinyl, laminate, and hardwood. They have the entire Willamette Valley covered from Albany to Eugene.